Okay, back from Gen Con, and I've got my white lion here. I've got one already painted. A friend of mine did it. He did a really good job. But I am going to put one together for the first time myself. One thing to note is these gaps on his back right here. Those happen in the regular mold. It's hard to get them to line up, and it actually goes all the way up here. I'm going to put them together, and then I'm going to show you guys how to fill those so that this doesn't happen to you. So, looks like on the sprue here, all of the parts you need to cut out are the E parts. So that's what I'm going to do. Just make sure that when you cut, you flip it over a couple times and make sure... I'll switch cameras so you guys can see a little better. Make sure when you do it that when you cut them out, the parts you cut out here, make sure you know exactly where you're supposed to cut, because sometimes they build it in the sprue a little different. So looks like that's supposed to be flush, so I'm going to cut that. Got the screaming antelope there too to cut out later. Now it looks like this sprue also has the starting survivors, the guys in the original art with that just woke up with their lanterns in hand. Fortunately, it looks like the unarmored kit is also more people with lanterns, which is cool. And you will have little bits like this that you'll have to clean up. Oh, you can see that. It's hard with the lighting. There it is. A little bit there. There's actually a mold line right here as well. I recommend a mold line scraper. They're kind of hard to find. I know Games Workshop makes them if you need a place to find one. A lot of hobby shops will carry them, but these are actually kind of hard to find. It's just a mold line scraper. It's just a piece of soft metal just to scrape the mold lines off. But it helps a lot, especially on these bigger monsters, because you don't have to be quite as gentle with them. And then if you need to, you can also use a hobby file, or like nail files work too. I know for those they have like blocks so that you can get different grits. And most King to Death is resin, unfortunately. But the core game, the base game that I'm putting together now, is 100% plastic, which is nice. So it's a lot easier to manage. You don't have to worry about the tiny little resin parts. But then again, even being plastic, a lot of this is pretty small. That's cool. That's interesting. That's from the butcher right here. F1 is the butcher. So I'll put him together too here in a bit. Right now I just want to focus on the white lion. So I'm finding all of his paws. This is E7, E8, and E9. I'm sure there's a guide. If you go to vibrantlantern.com, I believe there's a guide up there as well. I'm going to just kind of wing it for this video. Because I've got a sample here that I can reference just in case. Yeah, that's kind of Spartan painting. That's kind of the hard part is the core game isn't out. It's all sold out so that it's hard for people to get it. Looks like I have all the pieces. Although there may be some on this sprue as well. I'm going to have a quick look. Those are all the E parts. These aren't even numbered. So I'm assuming I'm good. Yeah, I know. I sunk your battleship with all my letter talk. So yeah, there you go. And there's that gap I was talking about. It's like I'm trying to line it up as well as I can, but there's that gap. So I'm going to try to make sure to get this all in. Another thing you can do, at least on this one, is not a bad idea. Plastic glue. You don't have to get it from Games Workshop. A lot of companies make it. But plastic glue will help soften this edge up by fusing the plastic together. So I'm going to clean this up. I've got also a hobby knife. I'm going to clean up these lines. A little bit of flash left over from cutting it off the sprue. And then see, like this gap here, there's not a lot you can do with that. Even with green stuff, it'd be hard to fill that. But if you've got some plastic glue, it'll fill it automatically when you pour a little in. And then it'll fuse the two sides together so it doesn't have that gap. One thing to bear in mind here, though, is it looks like one side might be a little higher than the other. So it may be worth it to go like that a little bit to try to even them out. Or like that, using the edge. Or that hobby knife that I showed earlier. You can actually really scrape with that. Cool. So I'm going to plastic glue that. I don't think there's anything. Let's check. Looks like the face goes in, but it goes in pretty easy. So. And again, you'll have to clean up the little bits. But that goes in pretty easy. So I'm going to use some plastic glue there, and then that can, while I'm cleaning up the other parts, the downside to plastic glue is it's not, unlike super glue, it actually takes a while to harden, about half an hour. So you're going to have to worry about making sure that you don't touch it as much. Fortunately, these two parts go together pretty snug, so it shouldn't impact me too much. There we go. There. And see, like I said, it's actually filling that gap. So just make sure it's a nice snug fit. And if you want to, kind of... It's another good thing about plastic glue is it's pretty good on your hands. So you're not going to get, you know, super glue stuck to your hands or anything like that. So it looks good to me. I'm going to leave that just over here while I clean up the other parts. So I'm working on the arm now. This is the first arm I cut out. Now it has that piece right here. Gently do that. And now my knife is actually kind of dull. A new razor, just make sure that you're careful. It's easier to pull towards you, but that's the downside, is you could cut your thumb. So be careful. Don't use too much force. That's how you cut yourself, is using too much force. Plastic's pretty soft, so it shouldn't take too much. And there are lines, like back here, there's a line. It's hard to see them, but if you rotate it in the light, you should be able to see, like, there's actually a mold line from this finger all the way down here. And so you just have to be aware. It doesn't show up in the light that I have for my camera, but it's there. That's why the edge of this is pretty good. You can also use this, though. You just got to be a little more careful with the mold line scraper, because it can take chunks out. It's better on flatter surfaces. So just double checking, because this will make it a lot easier when I have the. And if depending on the mold line too, you can actually use your fingernails, depending on how hard they are, to just scrape it off. Now I'm doing these mold lines right away because when I prime it, they'll be far more recognizable, and I don't want to have to worry about it. So now that that's cleaned up, I'm going to try to fit it, and that's not it, this side. Again, these gaps are easy to fill with that plastic glue, so that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to just put some on the edge here, on each edge, and then a little bit in the middle. Doesn't need a lot. One downside to using plastic glue is if you use too much, it'll really fill the gaps. And if that happens, it'll actually start melting the outside part, and you don't want that. So the key is to use just enough to fill the gaps that you don't want to notice, but not too much, otherwise it'll spill over and melt some of your detail. Because that's what it does. It causes a chemical reaction that basically welds the two sides of the plastic together, which is really cool. But you just got to be aware of that it's the whole purpose of that glue is to melt plastic. So just try not to get into places it shouldn't be. And I wouldn't use that for, unless you really, really want your armor kits to be unbreakable. I wouldn't use it there. I'd just use super glue. But on a monster like this, where he's pretty big and he's got a lot of curves, a lot of places that are like slot fit, like that arm, it's the right thing to do. I wasn't a big fan of the plastic glue, but I'm starting to use it a lot more often now. Especially for parts and modifications on things that you really want to have stick. It can be tricky if you can't get that connection right. And it looks like on the inside of this leg too, this is his back leg. And testicle, it looks like. It's, there's another mold line right here. So, I'm just trying to find them all. Oops. Okay. Looks like this one's a half, and there's that gap that I was talking about. It's going to be something we're going to have to really focus on and make sure that it's good. And you can see it's still a little higher. I don't know if you can see that right there. It's a little higher on the right side. So I'm still going to have to scrape until that evens out. And it may be worth pouring just a little bit of plastic glue into. Or even strategically putting it on top. Now remember, this will melt, so I've got a line of it right there. I don't know if you can see that, but I don't want it to melt, so I'm gonna like brush it away. But it should help smooth out that scrape that I made on top, and I did get it in that crack. So that one, the back leg is done. I need to do the other back leg. I want to make sure that that's all centered. Again, I'm just cleaning up the mold lines. Even on a miniature as awesome as a King to Death one, there's still going to be mold lines. So just bear that in mind. Even on the resin sculpts, there are small mold lines. Okay. Those two are cleaned up. I'm going to do the other front leg first, because it's one of those nice slot fits instead of a kind of a double joint. No, is that a... Can't tell if that's a defect here. There's a little tiny thing. I don't know if you can see that line. I can't tell if it's a defect or like supposed to be a vein. I'm gonna leave it. I can always scrape it off later. I'm gonna move this just a little bit. My arm's getting sore. I'm literally holding it up in the air. If you're gonna be ambitious enough to start building the whole King of Death set, especially the core armor sets, or even a larger expansion, just make sure you're comfortable. Because it does take a while, and it looks, you know, it's a part of his hair from the mane, so it's good I didn't scrape that off. So again, I'm going to put some on the edge here, all the way around, and then a bunch in the middle, but not too much. Because I want some to come out, but not too much to come out. There. Another good reason for this is this hand here. Here, move this down so you can see all the parts I'm working with. There aren't many left, but I have some left. Hello, Trojan Donkey. Welcome back. Alright, I added this a little early, but it should be okay. Make sure. Gonna kind of have to hurry up here. Shouldn't have put glue there. Make sure you don't put the glue until you absolutely need it. Don't do what I did. The reason I'm making sure to clean this up really quick before I glue it is because it does take half an hour to dry. Sometimes a little longer depending on how much you put on. I don't want to have to try to clean this up while it's drying. If I don't clean it up now, I'll forget too. So. Yeah, see? There's a gap here. I want to make sure that that's pretty full with the plastic glue. GenCon was a lot of fun. That's where I picked up the core set. It was really busy. I mean, there were 100,000 people there. There was a lot more going on than I expected. Then again, I had a very limited knowledge of what was supposed to take place. So, again, I'm going to take a little bit fill this gap. And I'll just wipe the rest away with my finger. After a while, you get these little strings. They look like spider webs. They're literally the plastic coming off. Kind of weird, but it happens. If you're not a sub, that means that the time has gone. You must have subbed a while. A little over a month ago, Trojan Donkey. It does it every month unless your settings aren't set up to renew. Depends on how you did it. I don't know if you did a Prime sub or if you did a regular one. Yeah, you have to redo it every month, as far as I know. Okay. Cleaning up the rest of the legs and feet now. We'll see if the plastic glue actually worked to clean them up enough. What do you guys think I should use for terrain for the base on him? Because I'm not going to put him on a base until I figure out a really cool resin base for him. But I'm not sure what I want to do. Maybe a pile of corpses or something? But if so, what do I use for the corpses? Maybe just grass? Maybe I'll read the rules for the lion. Kind of get some inspiration from that. I know a lot of people have used like grass to hide in. Made little grass bases to hide in. That'd be kind of cool. That's one thing I noticed in the showdown boards for the different monsters. The terrain is very unique and interesting. Yeah, there's a really big mold line on this. I don't know if you guys can see that. On the side of his face here, there's a really big mold line. Let me see if I can edit the... There. Yeah, you kind of see it now, right there. That mold line. It's actually pretty pronounced. So, just scrape it. It's a nice thing with mold lines, if they're way pronounced like that, they should be easy to scrape. So, makes it easy. Alright, again, dry fitting. Yep. And so you can see there's a gap on either side, right there and right there. But the plastic glue should help fix that. Unless I attached it too strong. There we go. I can't see any reason why it won't attach correctly, so. It looks like I'm missing a lower jaw. So let's find that. There it is, right here. E1. White Lion's kind of cool. He's got teeth like a shark. He's just got a ton of teeth all over the place. Regular lions, their teeth fit inside their mouths. Not this guy. It's kind of funny though that the white lion is not the apex, not the apex predator at all. You'd think it would be, or at least higher up on the food chain. Thank you, Trojan Donkey, for the sub. I love hearing that. Yep, and now it says you subbed for 2 months in a row. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot. Did I just messed it up. Dang it, now you know. Don't put the top of the head on first. Put the bottom on first. There. Again, one thing to bear in mind too, don't let any of this plastic glue get on your fingers, because it'll literally make fingerprints that are like 3-dimensional. Because you'll get a little drop that is going to be squished into the plastic by your fingers, and then that will leave little pools that are like your fingerprints. So you want to make sure that your miniatures are yours, and take a big dollop and then just stick it on there. Your fingerprint will be on there forever. But if you don't want that, alright, so there's a weird mold line right along the lips, which I don't think is too bad. It should be able to be fixed with a little bit of paint when you're painting it, but there we go. Cool. Yeah, you're definitely a veteran now, Trojan Donkey. There we go. I'm going to see if I can line this up properly. At least get one side lined up, right? And go from there. So there's not much of a connection. Looks like... yeah, it looks like just a little bit. There's also some down here. Just trying to get a connection where I can. There. Just like that. The most exciting thing I saw at GenCon was I went to a panel with Patrick Rothfuss, the author of Wise Man's Fear and... dang it. Forget the other book title. I love the books too. Really cool guy. Oop. No, I dropped the leg and a foot. Give me a second. I'm going to glue this in and then I'm going to pick up that foot. And you can see the gaps that are easy to get here. Met a lot of cool people. Biggest thing was the Keaton Death booth, though. But for the Kingdom Death, there was a lot. I'll talk to you about that in a second. Once I find this foot, I have to go spelunking under my desk. Of course, it's a gray piece on a tan carpet. Alright, found it. It's all the way under my desk. See you in a minute. But the booth was actually really cool. They had a lot of beautiful artwork from all the expansions. They had all the expansions arrayed on the outside of the booth, then had the store in the middle, and then they had 3 demo tables. One for the White Lion. One is a very basic demo. One for the Flower Knight, and one for the Dung Beetle Knight. And they did it so that you could actually play all 3 of them and actually still have a good time. Each demo played off the other one. And they had little cards set up so that you, as you were going about the demo, you didn't have to worry about your items or anything. All the characters represented their items. And they already had wound tokens on them, so the demos were meant to be fast. Some people beat the monsters, most people didn't. Okay, this one needs a lot more plastic glue. It fits, but it's a little loose. There. There's the tail. And you can see these lines. Now, a lot of these are going to be okay because the plastic glue helps, and then the we can fix anything else up with some paint. But I just wanted to really go over these because that's something to bear in mind as you work through this. That back gap for him is really bad. It's another reason I decided to have my little guy, this guy, the prototype, be the one in the display that they're fighting, because the will just work out better. Okay, so this is the foot. Trying to make sure the feet are lined up because the toes are going to be a little different. Okay, this one instantly has a problem. It extends a little too far at the top. Can you see that? Extends just a little too far right there. So that's an issue. We'll have to scrape that when we're done at the when the glue sets, basically. Sure the angle's right too. So for the demos, they didn't give anything away for winning. They give you a bunch of free pencils for playing. Like every demo you did, you got a free pencil. So that was cool. And they were color changing, so if you held them, they turned blue. A black pencil would turn blue. Okay, so he's done. So all you got to worry about is the back feet as well. They weren't completely lined up. You might have to do a little scraping once it's dry. But that plastic glue should help fill gaps and stuff. But that's it for the White Lion. I just wanted to make sure to do a quick build of him. Make sure to point out any mold lines and work on all that stuff. Now I can actually do start painting him and figure out a tutorial on some fur. So that's it. I'm going to work on the Screaming Antelope next, and I'll see you guys next time.